Hey guys, welcome back to my video. Thanks for watching, much appreciated. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go over some ways to create algorithms in React.js. Obviously algorithms are all over the place, but I thought I'd focus on the front end today. So we're going to be using React as well as a couple of packages. And while obviously, yes, on the back end there's plenty of algorithms and they can get complex. There's also algorithms that you do on the front end in order to make the user experience a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more rich, so to speak. And they're really not hard. You just got to sort of know how to, you got to identify the problem and then create something to execute it. And obviously there's a multitude of ways that you can solve these issues that we're going to go over, but this is the way I've done it in the past in certain instances, and it works, and there's no errors and all that. So we're going to go over probably about 5 of them, and some high order array methods and some just functions and stuff like that, some conditional logic. So if that sounds good, then please continue watching. Also, please consider subscribing. I do short videos to help beginners in coding, front end and back end. If you have any requests, please leave them in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful in any way, please leave a like. I would appreciate it. Alright guys, that's it. Let's get started, okay? Alright guys, so first thing we're going to start off, I'm going to be using React like I said. And I'm also going to be using VS Code or Visual Studio Code as well as Chrome browser, but all these algorithms and all the packages, etc., everything we're going to be doing today is going to work with other text editors and other browsers, except maybe Internet Explorer, but to heck with them. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to make a folder. I'm on Windows, by the way. But in Mac you would open up a terminal and create a directory and folder. We're going to call this algo test. We're going to cd into that algo test. Okay, and then I'm going to do npx create react dash app and period to create it in the folder that we're currently in now. While this executes, you do need to have Node.js installed, which is pretty easy. You just go to nodejs.org and download it and run the installer, and you'll have it. And then you'll have by default npx, which you use to create a React boilerplate, like you just saw me do. Okay, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I do have a video that gets you started with Create React App that answers all your questions. I will leave that in the link. I will leave a link in the description below, so check that out after this video. Might help answer any questions you have if you get stuck along the way creating boilerplate React App. But anyway, this is going. As soon as it's done, we're going to install one package, which is Axios, which is just really doesn't have much to do with our algorithms, although it will be included in one of our algorithms, but it's really just a way to go and get data from an API. It's an HTTP protocol, which means our app goes to a URL and it brings back the data and gives it to us in JSON format. Okay, so this is just going. I might pause the video because this does take, maybe 45 seconds or 60 seconds or something like that. So, okay guys, so when you see the little happy hacking sign here at the bottom, you know that you're done and you've got a good run of Create React App. So I'm going to type code dot, and that's going to open our folder in VS Code, which you can do as soon as you install VS Code. Now we're not going to do anything crazy. So this is what Create React App gets you. I go over that in the other video. I'm going to come up here and open a new terminal session. And I'm going to right click on terminal and move this to the right panel. Hopefully you guys can see that over there. And I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to do npm install, oops, 2 L's, install Axios. And Axios, like I said, is the HTTP package that makes HTTP calls to other URLs and gets data back so that we can manipulate it for our front end. And that was the fastest I've ever seen Axios installed, perhaps because my computer is brand new. Now, two other things I'm going to do real quick. Oops. I'm just going to bring in Bootstrap just because it helps. Helps make things look a little nicer. I'm just going to copy this CSS CDN. This is not the optimal way to do this, but I'm doing it just for demonstration purposes. Whoops. Oops. I'm going to go back and grab that. You know, normally I'd use React Bootstrap or something like that, or I just install the Bootstrap package from npm, but this is fine for our project. Yeah, I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, save it. Let's see here. Okay, and the other thing I did was, and this is not mandatory, it's just something I'm doing just to make things a little more interesting for you guys. I added my Font Awesome kit. So it's pretty cool, Font Awesome, I'm sure you've heard of it, but you just go sign up and then you get a link and then you can use the icons. And I put both of those, the Bootstrap and the Font Awesome, in my public folder in the index.html file. We're going to close that because we don't need it anymore. And after all that crazy setup, we are going to get started. One thing I'm going to do real quick, I'm not going to bother cleaning up any files, it's not necessary, but I am going to add a bit of CSS. And don't worry, this is super minimal, and it's just for, you know, it's real, not a big deal. Font size, I'm going to set the entire, this little asterisk means it applies to everything, sort of like a root thing. I'm going to say 1.5 rem, and we'll say text align, center, and this will make sense once we get going. And then I'm going to say I for the icon, which is the Font Awesome icon. I'm just going to give it a color of 222, which is like a black color. Okay, just going to say that, close that baby. Let us, I'm going to come into our app.js, delete this logo. So a lot of, in the beginning, we're just going to be setting up, and I promise you we'll get to it. Let's start this up, npm start, our start script, to get this project started. Hopefully it shouldn't take long. Here we go. So as you can see with React, you get this start script and then it starts it up on a local server so that you can test everything. Good, looks like we're in business even though it's not showing anything, but that's because, you know, we're here. Type in H4, we'll say algo test just to see if anything shows up. There we go. Good. So we're in business. Alright, let's get started. I promise we will. Alright, now first thing I want to do is we're going to need some things. So I'm going to import React, and I'm going to bring in 2 hooks. We're going to be using hooks, by the way. One is use state, the other is use effect, the most common ones. I'm going to import, if I could spell that correctly, import Axios from Axios, because we're going to need that because we're going to be getting our info. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is let's create some state so that we can get set up here. So I'm going to create some state. We're going to get some to-dos. I know, very exciting. Something you've never seen before, I'm sure. But just to show you how easy algorithms can be. That's going to be set to an empty array initially. All right, let's go get our information, our API. JSON placeholder, you've probably heard of it before. It gives fake, it's a fake REST API, but it, you know, it works. We're going to get the to-dos, and we're going to get this API endpoint here. Okay. And let's see. Let's come down here. Now we have to get our, and by the way, throughout this video, I'm gonna go by and point out which part is algorithm, which part is syntax, and which part is core React stuff, just so there's no confusion, because I want you guys to focus on the algorithms. And something that messed me up in the beginning was not necessarily knowing, you know, what the difference between those things were. What was core React, what was the actual algorithm, and what was just plain JavaScript syntax. Okay, so this right here, core React, this is use state hook, and that's how you set it. This use effect, when it's empty like that, is core React, just straight up React. But what we're going to do here, which actually is our first algorithm technically, but I'm not officially counting it. This is JavaScript algorithm. Okay, so it's good practice to create a function inside of your use effect. Fetch, we'll call it to-dos, and this is going to be an async. A lot of substance in this video, guys, so please leave a like, because there's a lot of things that I go over. So it's going to be an async function, technically an algorithm, because we're using it to solve a problem. We need to get our results, which we're going to store in a variable called results. That's going to equal, and we're going to await this process so that we make sure that we get our information before we set it for the page. All right, and I'm going to paste that URL. Let me just bring this down on the next line there, just so you guys can see. Okay, so that's our variable. Now, so we want to await this process. We want to wait for JSON placeholder to send a result, and then we're going to set our to-dos using our set to-do function up here in our use state, and we're going to set it to results, that variable, data. Okay. Excuse me. Now we got to come down here and we got to call. Oops. We got to. Oops. Sorry. Jump down. We got to call our function. This fetch to dos. We got to call it so that it executes. Okay. And then this. So this part right here is the algorithm. Right. It solves a problem. We create a function to do what we need using Axios to help us out. We could use. Forget the other one. Jeez, I can't think of it now. We could use another way, but this is what I'm using. And then we call our function. Now this that I'm adding here is straight up React, because we want to stop use effect from doing a continuous loop. So after it gets the data, it's going to set it back to an empty array. So that's core JavaScript. Now, just to test it out, let's see what we got. We're going to console log our to-dos, our to-do state. See if that worked. Should. No errors, beautiful. Let me close this, we're done with that. Let me open up our terminal by right-clicking and going to inspect. Coming over here and going to our console, and there we go. There's our to-dos. There's, you know, there's 100 of them, or actually I think there's 200 of them. And just like you see in on the JSON placeholder website, you know, it has whether it's completed, an ID, a title, and a user ID. And we're going to be using most of those things. All right. I'll keep this console open for now. So, but I'm going to delete this because it's not a good idea to have a bunch of random console log things in there. All right. So let's do our body down here. It's pretty simple. Not a big deal. I'm going to add a, oops, I'm not even typing here. I'm going to add a class name here just to give it some margin, -4. Now let's see. Let's open up a JavaScript expression, which is JSX, which is part of React. So we're going to take our to-dos and we're going to map through it. Now technically this is an algorithm, but I'm not going to go over this today because it's, you know, it's pretty common and I've done that before. But what we are going to do, these stupid pop-ups are really annoying. What we are going to do, however, is we're going to create a to-do, we're going to create a to-do component, and then we're going to pass in props, just because it's good practice. And that prop is going to be called to-do with curly braces, and we're going to pass in this. This is our individual to-do that it, whenever the map function goes, passes it to this variable, and then we're passing in that variable to our to-do props. So let's create a new file, call it to-do.js, because this is each individual to-do. Okay, and I think for now, yeah, because we got some stuff to do in this to-do. I'm just going to go RAFCE to create a boilerplate, and we'll, you know, whatever, which I get because I have this React GraphQL snippets installed, is why I'm able to type wow, things are not working, RAFCE, and it gives me a React functional component. So I'm going to come back over here, we're going to pass in this. Now each individual one needs a key so that React knows. I'm sure, you know, I'm not going to go over the specifics of it. I actually have a video of that, but I'll leave that in the description. So to-do.id is the individual identifier for each individual component. To-do is not defined because we have to bring that in. Import to-do from /to-do. And then we should be good. Good. I mean, nothing's going to show up because we don't have anything, so that's fine. Let's see. Now, for our individual to-do, let's see. Yeah, let's display stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do, now normally you could do props, and that's fine, but then you'd have to type props dot everything else. So I'm going to destructure and pull out our to-do from the props. And then, you know, then we're just, excuse me, we're just going to basically, I think I'm going to make everything an alert, a bootstrap alert, so you can see, and we're going to manipulate those, and that's part of the process. We're going to use our algorithms to manipulate colors and a few other things. But for now, we're just going to say it's an alert, and it's an alert dash success, which gives it like a greenish color. Okay. There we go. And then in here, we're going to put to do, which is this props that we pulled out, and we're going to get dot title, which is the title of the to do. Let's see if we get it, and there we go. Pretty big, but I did that so you guys can see. It's got all 200 of them in here. You know, there's a ton of them, but we're going to take care of that. All right, so at least we're getting our information, and that's all good. We got no errors, etc. Excuse me. Now, let's see. Let's do this. Now, if you remember, I gotta search it again. JSON placeholder. Now, if you remember, in our to-dos for JSON placeholder, you notice there was this completed thing, and it's false, false, true. You know, JSON placeholder just assigns a random thing to it. Let's use an algorithm to figure out which. So if something is completed, it's going to be one color. If it's incomplete, it's going to be another color. Okay. So we're going to do that. It's pretty easy. So I'm going to go back up to this class name, and I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to use my backticks because I'm going to make, curly braces and then backticks, which is the little notch right next to your one, so that I can use template literals, and I can type alert as we have to, same bootstrap class, dash, and then I'm going to put in a variable, which is actually going to be a function, and we're going to say alert color. This will be the name of our function, and we need to pass in the info that we need, completed. So whatever for this individual to do, right? Let me show you. So this is a to-do.js, this is a to-do.js, etc. So for each individual to do, we want to pass in whatever the completed is, right? And then we are going to create our function up here. Give me some space here. Okay, and we're just going to create a variable const, and I call that alert. Whoops, alert color. It's going to be an arrow function. Could be a traditional function if you want. Doesn't matter. And then we need to pass. So that we passed it in here, and now we need to pick it up here. Pass it in as our argument. I'm just going to call it C. I suggest you call it something a little more obvious, but for now you can call it whatever you want. So I'm going to say if C is equal to true, because remember it's a Boolean, so it's literally a Boolean, not a string with a Boolean in it, so we can use the triple equals. So if C is true, right, we're going to return in quotes success, which is what we typed in here, except it's going to be generated dynamically based on the results of whatever the completed is. We'll say else return. So if it's not completed, we're going to return danger, which is going to be like a red color. Let's see if that worked. Go back to our app. Boom. Now see how some are green and some are red. So the ones that are not completed are red, and the ones that are green are completed, right? So that's just functionality, right, for an app. Good. That worked out. So let's do the second one. So instead of the title, the color's great and all, but let's have a way of telling the user that it's complete. So we're going to create a completed is completed function, and we're going to pass in that same to-do.completed thing, and then we're going to come down here. We're going to create this is the second algorithm. Really, algorithms for the most part, not all obviously, for the most part are just if-else statements. I mean, if this is true, yada yada. But what happens if you have more than one? Well, we're going to get to that a little later. For now, it's still going to be an if-else statement, but we're going to use a ternary operator, which is just a different way of doing it, and that's fine. So we're going to say is completed for our function. Remember, guys, this is not meant to be super duper complex. It's just meant to get you started, because I know when I started, I had no idea how to start. So we're going to say return comp. So we're going to return whatever we're going to write here. So if comp is true, then we want to do something. And I'm just going to put it on two. I'm going to put it on 2 lines. Else, and this is just the syntax of the ternary operator. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go to font awesome here. Okay. I'm going to say circle. I hope this works, because I had a weird thing signing into my font awesome, but hopefully it works. If not, we'll figure something out. Copy. Go here. So if comp is true, I'm sorry. It should be, we want to check mark inside of a circle. All right, so follow along. Pay attention. So if completed is true, which means it is true, we're gonna it's gonna put this check mark circle thing, which means it's done. If it is not completed, we're just going to put an open circle. I don't know, makes sense to me, right? Okay, so you see how this works? So the ternary operator is the if statement. This is, oops, sorry. This is the else statement, this little colon, and then so that. Let's check it out, that should work. Successful, and there you go. So not completed, just a plain circle in red. Completed, circle with check. Oh, right, and for when you use Font Awesome, you have to change it to class name. That should go away. All right, there you go. Just refresh. No more. So that's kind of cool, right? So, you know, so the completed ones have a check, yada yada. And, you know, I'm not going to get into it, but you can create a little button that changes it to a check mark or whatever when it's done. Let's do our final one. Where we're going to display the user because, oh, I'm sorry, not our final one, our third one. So if you'll notice I'm sorry, user ID is 1111, and then down here it changes to 2, and then there's 3, and it goes all the way down. So we're going to use that, right? So say your client or whatever wants to say, well, how do we tell the difference between users? Well, here we go. So we're going to call this user icon. Oops, sorry, I don't know why it does that. We're creating a function, user icon, that I'm creating. Okay, and then we're going to pass in to do dot what is it, user ID with a capital I. Okay, now we did an if-else statement, we did a ternary operator, which are pretty much the same thing, just different syntax. What if you have more than one options? Because we have 1, 2, 3, we have a bunch of different user IDs, so we want to create a different icon for each user. Okay, so we have more than one and we don't know what it's going to be. Okay, I'm sorry, well, we do know what the user icon is going to be, so, but anyway, we're going to use a switch statement. Now, up here, there was only 2 different kinds, completed or incompleted. So we could use an if-else statement because it's pretty simple. Same with this. We only had completed or incompleted. So we use the ternary operator. And you can use these sort of interchangeably. Here we have a multitude of ones, right? All right, so we're going to create that const. So it really is assessing the problem and then coming up with a solution, right? And, you know, sort of choosing the best method. And it's not always going to be the best. It doesn't have to be the best, but, you know, just a method that you think will work that won't conflict with anything else. And then you just create a function for the most part. So, try to spell switch correctly. We need to pass in the ID. So down here, we passed in the user ID, and then up here, we just called it ID. And then into the switch statement, we pass that ID. Okay, we're going to say case 1 for the number 1. So when the user ID is 1, this is what we're going to do. We're going to return, and we need to get some icons. So let's go back to this. I'm going to search icons. And let's have some fun. What the heck? We're going to pick hot dog. So when the user ID is 1, we're going to return a hot dog. Okay, and second case is going to be when the user ID is 2. We're going to return another icon. We're going to return pizza. Sure, why not? Okay. Our next case statement is 3. Okay. And if the user ID is number 3, we're going to return this ice cream cone. We're going to return an ice cream cone. Now, also we want to do a default. Okay. we're going to return again. This time let's just do user, right? Only the users 1, 2, and 3 are special. So it's just going to be this plain user figure silhouette thing. Okay. So this is our algorithm, right? So say the person was like, oh, each user needs their own unique icon. All right, here we go. So that's how we would solve that. What is it? Oh, sorry, because it typed it in there. I added it in there. Sorry about that. Don't worry about that. Alright, compiled successfully. Go back to our app, and there you go. Hot dog, because those are all user 1. Scroll down. There's the pizza for user number 2. Yada yada. And there's user number 3 with the ice cream. Okay, keep going, and there's the rest of the. So because this user icon is the default, it's going to assign every single person besides user 1, 2, and 3. And of course, you got to use class name instead of just class for React. That's a React thing, by the way. So let me go over this real quick. So this here is a function, right? Where we call the function inside of the return object. The curly braces are a JSS expression, which is pretty much a part of React, but this part here where you type out the function, and then this part up here is straight up JavaScript algorithm, right? The switch statement, the cases, the return, the arrow function, all JavaScript algorithms, okay? These curly braces here are just how React chooses to insert code into the return function. Okay, now like I said before, we got a couple more. Let's take a look at it. Looks pretty good, you know, it's large, but that's okay. Let me close this up just a little bit so you can see. So it looks good, but there's a lot of them, right? Say your client says, oh, I only want like 10 posts to show, right? The 10 newest posts or whatever, all right? Excuse me. So in order to do that, we're going to create some more algorithms, but we're going to use high order array methods, all right? Now the first one we're going to do is going to be pretty easy, right? Say you have a thing where your project manager or whoever comes to you and says, I want, you know, it's great that we have all these here, but the client only wants 10 to show, the first 10 to show, right? Okay, so how do you do that? Well, we have a little thing called .slice, which takes an array and slices it. So we're going to start slice dot in these parentheses, okay? Now you have to add 0, meaning it starts at the 0 position of the array, and then we only want 10 results, so that's where you type it in. And that was pretty darn simple. So now you'll see, actually I should back up here just a little bit so you can see better. Now you'll see we only have 10, right? And .slice, it's a high order array method. It's pretty common. I'm sorry, not a high order array method. It's just a method in JavaScript. But if you wanted, say, 5 posts to show, there you go. So that's what you would type. So that's technically this is an algorithm. You're using a method to get a result for a problem. Now, let's do something that's a little more complicated, and that'll be our last one, and then that's it for the video. Now, what I want to do is, let's say your project manager or client comes to you and says, okay, that's great, we only have, I'm going to put this back to 10, so we get 10 results. Let's say they say, okay, that's great, we want them in alphabetical order. Okay. Great, so we're going to create a variable. Const, we'll say sorted to-dos going to be equal to, now this is still, this is JavaScript, this .slice, so is this .map, both methods. And this function that we're creating here, you can do this in vanilla JavaScript, you know, whatever. So we're going to take our to-dos array and we're going to sort them. This is, if you want to sort it by alphabetical order, there are different ways to do it, but this is just one of the ways, and this is technically solving a problem. Your project manager or whoever comes in and says, "It's great, but we need them to be in alphabetical order." You go, "Oh man, how am I going to do that?" Okay, I could use .sort, and we do that by passing in two arguments, A and B, which is first and second, basically. Then we're going to open this. We're going to open up our function, okay? And inside of this, we're going to use an if-else statement. So if a.title, which is going to be so A is the particular to-do, the single to-do, and then we're pulling out the title, and then we're saying if it's less than B title, okay, if that's the case, then we're going to return a -1, and it's kind of hard to explain, but this is just how .sort works. If it's true, then it returns a -1. I'm sorry, if it's false, it returns a -1. If it's true, it returns a 1, positive 1. So it's just kind of how it works. So we're going to do two if statements back to back. So if a.title, and I'm trying to give some space, is greater than b.title, oops, then we're going to return 1. Okay? And then as a default, we're just going to, so after those two if statements, so if either one of those if statements are not true, it's just going to set it to a 0. Okay? Now we have to come down here and change this, because we want to, first you sort it, then you cut it, then you slice it into just 10. So we need to sorted to-dos, and then .slice, and then .map. So you sort them all, then you slice them, then you map them. Let's see. No errors. Boom. A, B, A, C, C. It's in alphabetical order. That's it, guys. Went a little longer than I thought, but hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please leave a like. If you have any follow-up questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And that's it. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and take care. I'll see you later.